the last thing I want to ask you, and this, if goes to those that aren't in our shoes yet, what advice do you have for someone that wants to get into public safety aviation?
Oh, I mean, for me, it comes back to the conversation we had at the start of the podcast, which is about my experiences of when I became responsible for recruiting people into our unit. I wrote a paper, like a booklet, and it was, it was, this job is not for me. And then it would kind of dispelled that myth. And I just told my story, and I just tried to encourage people to give it a go. And I think for me, it's never be afraid to reach out to the air support unit or air wing if you can. You've talked about it a lot on the podcast, the value of networking. Even if you can't go there, find an email address of someone. The TFOs and pilots are all proud of what they do. And generally speaking, they will take the time and effort to share their experiences with you. And then see if you can arrange a visit to the unit early doors before you even consider applying, and talk to the TFOs, because I've given so much advice to people over the years. I've said, right, this is the skill set we're looking for. And then you can go away and look at yourself and say, right, what am I lacking? I need to go and develop in this area. It's not, in the case of a police officer in the UK, it's not about being able to fly. I'd never been anywhere near an aircraft before, other than on a holiday passenger, when I arrived in my first helicopter flight. And the vast majority of TFOs are police officers that have got no aviation experience, but they have a passion, and they've gone away and I've said, right, here's a checklist. You need to be able to do this, 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 and this. And I've seen people go getting a map book out and looking at Google Maps and Street View, and just practicing. What does it look like on the map? What does it look like in the real world?
Yeah.
And all sorts of things like that. Just little skills. Getting a mentor. So if somebody wants a mentor, I would have given them one of my TFOs and say, right, just work with this individual and try and get them through. I'd rather have someone who, I used to have a lot of discussions about fairness, and they'd say, oh, well, is it fair if that person's had an extra flight? And I'd say, well, everybody has the opportunity to put themselves out to go and try. It'd be different if I was refusing to fly one person and agreeing to fly another. Yeah. But the fact that someone's shown the initiative, and I've heard it a lot on different, particularly on military podcasts where people are trying to get into officer candidate schools and things like that. What is it about me that makes me the one you should pick? And I always think it's the person that's put themselves out. I interviewed people, and I'd say to them, what have you done to prepare for today? And those that said nothing, it was almost like, well, why are you sat there then? Those that could reel off, well, I've done this and I've done that and I read this and I watched that and I spoke to this person and I went there. Wow, okay, you've really put some effort in. And then, of course, you have to pass the flight tests and the training. But so that's all I would say. Never, ever believe it's not for you. People soon realize if it's not for them. I've flown quite a few people, and you will have done the same, who have either felt very ill when they get out of the helicopter, and we've all felt ill at times, and that goes with the territory, and you learn to deal with that. But I've flown quite a few people who have just landed and said, no, thanks for the flight, but this is not the job for me.
Yeah.
Fine. Absolutely.
Nothing wrong with that.
I'm pleased you enjoyed it, but there's nothing wrong with you admitting that you wouldn't want to do that day in, day out. So, I think from a pilot perspective in the UK, I guess it's, don't be afraid of coming into police aviation flying. I've always said is the closest thing to military flying. So a lot of my pilots used to come out of the military and into policing. It's about as dynamic as it gets. You don't know where you're going. You don't know how long you're going for. It's as close to tactical flying as you're ever going to get. That and kind of HEMS flying is, we don't know what's going to come in today. We don't know where we're going. We don't know where we're going to land. We don't know what we're going to do. It's not all right. We're going to take off at 1000 hours and we're going to fly this direction, and we're going to turn and we're going to land here. We don't know that. So I've always said it's an exciting role for any pilot. Mm-hmm. And, again, same old tip applies. Try and get a contact at the air unit. Get yourself up for a flight. Get your face known. Show an interest. And when you come to recruitment, slightly different for pilots. You come to the interview, there's a face we know, there's a person we've seen before, and especially if you've got those personality traits, you're halfway there. I really believe it.
Yeah, I love all that. That's all huge. Those are the things that I think if any person does, it's going to put them, leaps and bounds above their competitors, for that position.
And then in the wise words of Rob Monday, don't be an a-hole, right?
Absolutely.
You got to be somebody that you're going to have to be with that crew. You're going to have to, be in that aircraft for, hours at a time. You've got to be somebody that is going to be enjoyable to be around. And that's, I think the biggest part of, selection sometimes is, I can teach a person to do a lot of what we do. It might take a little longer for some than others, but again, having that right attitude of coming in and saying, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. I want to learn this, and be eager about it, and be somebody that's enjoyable to be around for, 10, 12, hours, is, I think that's the secret sauce right there.
That's the key, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Yep.
And if I can't spend 12 hours with you, how are we going to work together? And when you're in the confines of a cockpit and there's two of you
right.
or three of you there, you need to work as a team. If any person doesn't do their bit of the program, as it were, if your cog is missing, then the machine doesn't work. And it's been proved again and again that, that everyone needs to be on their A game all the time, and you need to get on with each other. And we have a laugh. And we enjoy. There's a great amount of banter in policing, even more amount of banter in police aviation. I have some fantastic jokes with my pilots. I always say, when a pilot's in the room, because they'll tell you, and it's that kind of joking. I have massive respect for what they do, and I think the pilots have massive respect for what the TFOs do, and the two jobs, certainly in the UK, and I pick up the same from listening to the podcast. You can't work one without the other. They need both of them to be working well to deliver the mission.
Yep.